I just realized I wasn't recording your video feed.
Well, we could start all over.
13 minutes in. That's so embarrassing.
That's okay. I mean, it wasn't like we got a magic take and we'll never be able to do it again. So do you want to start again?
Yeah, we probably should.
Ryan, killing me.
Well, now you guys just repeat everything I just said so you'll seem informed.
This is going to feel real smooth for the next 13 minutes because we've got our practice in.
This time I'm going to say that you can only own 3 Danny Gatton records.
Well, you know what I mean. Well, let's start. Do you have to play the music again?
Yeah, we'll do the full thing.
Just ask me different questions.
Right. We'll get into it in a different way.
Jim, would you say you have a Bakersfield sound? By the way, I just thought of a song I heard this morning. I'm Helen Keller and you're a waffle iron. Let's not do that, even though that was nice, But we don't have to recreate it, right?
No,
right.
No, we'll hit it.
Okay, take 2.
I swear this never happens to
Hey everyone, I'm Ryan.
me. And I'm Steve, and this is 60 Second Hum, the guitar buying, playing. Oh, shoot.
You messed it up. The guitar buying, selling, trading, fixing.
No, buying, trading, selling, sell. Hold on, I wrote it down here.
If you just let me do
Guitar
it.
buying, selling, trading, fixing, modding, breaking, reviewing, playing podcast.
There you go, Steve.
I don't have notes for episodes 1 and 2.
You had practice, Steve. Like, we had to restart the whole thing because we weren't recording
Ryan,
the video.
Practice. This is episode 402.
So anyways, hey everyone, I'm Ryan. That's Steve. We did our intro. We have a guest. We have Jim Campilongo. Did I get your name correct this time?
Yeah, you did.
So Jim hit us up earlier in the week, like 2 days ago. I was like, hey, can I be on this show? And I, very embarrassingly, I wasn't familiar with you or your body of work. And then I looked up your Wikipedia and I looked at some of the details and I was like, yes, this person, we will have him on the show. So thanks for joining us, Jim. Do you want to talk about yourself or do you want us to talk about you?
Well, why don't you talk about me? And if it gets, if I start disagreeing, I'll interrupt.
Well, what I want to pull up is the screen grab that I took off of Wikipedia. And this is the he has played with list. Al Anderson, Bright Eyes, Cake. That's a huge one for me. I'm a huge Cake fan. So
I play on Prolonging the Magic. And I think that's a great record.
Yeah.
It was really fun to do, and they're great guys to work with. What's the leader's name? I can't remember the singer.
I never remember band members' names.
And you call yourself a fan.
I know I know every lyric to every song.
Oh my God.
He's great. His name's John, and it's really.
Yeah.
Forgive me for not knowing because I really respect him.
So
go ahead.
We'll circle back to that. JJ Cale, Steve Cardenas. I don't know his name. Burning Spear.
It's it's Steve Campilongo. No, it's Steve Cardenas.
Chris Cheek, Nels Klein, Patrick Stewart.
Yeah,
Captain Picard. So I want to circle back to that too. Charlie Hunter, Adam Levy, Sonny Azell, Peter Rowan, Teddy Thompson, Martha Wainwright. Didn't you play with Norah Jones too?
Yeah, isn't she on there?
She's not on this list. It must have been like, oh, here's the top thing, and then here's the other people you've played with. But yeah, you've played with a ton of people. You have all your own records and stuff too. You have your own bands that you do. But yeah, looking at that list, Cake, I was like, oh man, I got to talk to this guy. Patrick Stewart.
John McCrae. John McCrae is the brains behind Cake.
Steve and I are huge Star Trek people, so Patrick Stewart is a point of interest. I'm sure I've never heard his music, but that's interesting to me. But yeah, you're a Telecaster guy. You love Princeton's. I noticed that from your website. I'm a big Princeton lover. I've got 2 behind me right now. Like there's so much about you that I was like, yeah, this guy seems interesting. So,
well, thank you.
Did I miss anything? Is there anything that you want to fill in the blanks there?
No, I think that was, I give that a B minus.
There's room for improvement.
No, it was great. It was great. Did you have a question? You want to, I didn't have sex with Patrick Stewart. No.
Is that a thing? Is that a thing that his musicians usually do with him? Or
No.
Well, I'd imagine it'd be hard to avoid if you're in the room with him and the opportunity arises.
He can't. I'll tell you about Patrick Stewart if you'd like. I mean, I got other stories, and this one might not be one of the best. And interrupt if I'm talking too long. But Patrick Stewart met a mutual friend of ours, the New York musician crew, Sonny Ozell, who was a singer, a local singer around here, really good. And she and Patrick fell in love. And Sonny said that, you've got to hear my friend Jim, me. Mm. And so I'm playing a gig, and I look up and I'm like, is that Patrick Stewart? And it's funny, it's like Charlie Parker could have come to the gig, or Jimi Hendrix, and I'll be way more excited. Like, right. Richard Gere's here, or something. But I was really excited that Patrick Stewart was there, and he was sitting in the back. And I went up to him and I just kind of nerded out.
Yeah.
And I said, wow, it's so nice to meet you. I loved you in Conspiracy Theory. And he immediately went into that role.
Whoa.
Yeah, he went like, what do you mean? Like, I can't act it. He immediately acted out the part. And it was the beginning of a relationship that I could only describe him as cool can be. He's so nice. That's like amazing. If I made a movie and I'd be like, I don't know if there's a role for Patrick Stewart, but let's make one. I want him there. He's that kind of guy.
Yeah.
But anyway, he fell in love with my music. And Sonny told me that he listened to this one particular CD called Heaven is Creepy all day in his estate somewhere in the UK. But I think he thought that I invented electric guitar playing a little bit. And I'm not being condescending, but I don't think he has heard Hendrix
sure.
Led Zeppelin, and so I might have gotten more credit than I deserve, but he ended up bringing like kind of all these celebrities, Michael Tilson Thomas, Joel Gray came. I'm drawing a blank now, but he'd bring like celebrities going, this is Jim. And anyway, he decided that he wanted to record a record for charity, and it's on YouTube and it's hilarious. It's done as like, do you guys remember K-Tel commercials? Like K-Tel presents 24 golden hits.
Oh yeah, totally.
Okay, good. It's that. Okay, but we went in and he plays a cowboy and he's dressed like in chaps and everything.
I think I've seen something from this.
Yeah, it's really memorable. But anyway, I'm in the group. I think there's some footage of me, and we recorded. I think we did Rawhide.
My gosh, that's amazing.
We did El Paso.
Yeah.
And we just had to do snippets. So he made a CD, he made this YouTube clip, all for charity. And that's why Patrick Stewart and not Norah Jones is listed in my Wikipedia. But he's incredible. And he invited me over to their house for Thanksgiving. And I went. It was fantastic.
That's amazing.
He's the most charming person I've ever met in my life. And he did Shakespeare and he invited me. And I was there. And, I'm not like a super Shakespeare guy.
Sure.
but I really enjoyed it. And as soon as it ended, an usher came up and said, Patrick Stewart would like to talk to you now. And I went back in the dressing room and he was like, what did you think? Like one artist to another. It was just, he's a beautiful man.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I was afraid I was going to bring up Patrick Stewart and you were like, yeah, I got called into a session and I never met him. Like, that's a completely opposite story.
No, it is totally opposite. And actually the musical associations I have are quite personal.
Yeah.
And, as I said earlier, I have 14 solo records out. One's the greatest hits on Sundays, so it's 13 original records. And I pretty much have this distinctive voice. I'm not a jack of all trades. I mean, I'm fairly versatile, but especially living in New York, if they need Brazilian guitar, they'll get a guy from Brazil.
Right.
Or the greatest slide player in the world. They won't get me and let me wing it. They'll get Derek Trucks or something.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so generally when I do get a call, I think people have the intent of like, yeah, they want this flavor. They want you. They want me.
Yeah.
And Patrick, that's what he wanted, but it's a straight country record. It was super fun. We did it really fast too. Really fast.
Fun. Steve and I went and watched a collection of your clips, kind of like shotgunned it out there to see what we could find. And, we talked about this in the first take, which is lost to history now. But I noticed.
It's so good.
It's on that camera. You could put, never mind.
No, but we don't have this.
You don't have the footage.
People don't need to know how the sausage is made. But anyway, I noticed a lot of kind of Bakersfield country influence you're playing. Steve and I both noticed some jazz influences floating around. There's Americana in there. There's a lot of influences, and that list of people that you've played with is kind of all over the map. But yeah, the clips that I've heard of you play, it's it is you. You have this distinct style that is you. And when I found some clips of you and started to hear you play, I was like, oh yeah, I can see why he was on Cake recordings. Oh yeah, I can see why he was playing with this band and with that singer and that singer. And it all just kind of connected. Yeah, I can get a really good picture of who this guy is as a player just with a couple clips and seeing who you've been playing with. So I think that does speak pretty loudly as to you have a distinct personality as a guitarist, and I think that's a fun thing and a good thing.
Well, that was so nice. I give it an A++.
I did it! I got my score up!
A lot of times, I remember back in the dark ages when I had a horse and carriage, I was very, controlling about what videos would get out.
Right.
Pre-YouTube. And, but if I was going to recommend anything, there's a track called Back Burner that's live from the living room. It's a few years back, but I think it's really good. And it's kind of I'm Helen Keller and you're a waffle iron, that kind of vibe. And then that's what for
people who didn't hear the lost footage. That's the name of one of his songs, and Steve listened to it, and apparently it's really wild, and I want to hear it now.
It's satisfying.
Yeah, I think you would really like it.
Maybe we should play it at the end of the show. Is it okay if we play it at the end of the?
You could play anything you want.
There you go. I'll plug it into the end. We usually play a song from a listener at the end of the episode, so we'll plug that into the end.
Yeah, it's Back Burner off Orange.
Back Burner off Orange.
Yeah. But you were talking about.
I was talking about the Helen Keller and waffle iron song.
I'd vote for Back Burner.
Okay. Back Burner. Okay.
Yeah, but if Steve's okay with that.
Yeah,
because you guys are the boss. This is your show.
I'm just gonna put it up on my phone and hold it to the microphone.
I'll hold the cable for you when it's time.
Just sing it.
Yeah, play it for us live. All right, we're sidetracked now. Where were we?
I don't know.
So I'm thinking
Just
about
make it about me.
thinking about these lists of all these different players. Like what were, and I guess talking about like the style, and we mentioned, now that you mentioned that, like I listened to your cover of When You Wish Upon a Star came up on my playlist. And at first, I actually almost skipped it because I'm like, oh,
I've heard this song before.
Heard this one before. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, there's a lot of personal take on this. Like, this isn't someone else's version.
How insightful. Because I mean, excuse me for interrupting.
No.
But when I did that song, I mean, obviously, When You Wish Upon a Star, I wanted to play it like the guy or the person doesn't get their wish.
Mm-hmm. That's fun.
Because it is kind of a yearning song.
Right.
Like it's about asking for a wish. But the way I worked on it, like, looked at the lyrics, and I always do. I mean, I'll read the lyrics, and I thought, this song isn't necessarily a guarantee.
Right. I like that.
Yeah, and I think that's what you kind of intuitively felt when you heard it, because it isn't, trying to be Judy Garland or something.
No, it's got its own thing going on. And the thing that really stood out to me was, I don't know. I don't think it was slapback. Maybe it was slapback, but there's a note doubling, but only on specific parts. So it simultaneously is kind of it's kind of very, like Judy Garland, Disney-fied, it's very pretty. And then there are these parts that are definitely that, the Bakersfield influence, where it's just like, did it. And then
I kind of wanted to make it tragic. Like there was no doubling, but I don't know if I could, like,
yeah.
I don't know. That was kind of underwhelming. But the intervals, like the melody's there, but there's like another voice that I tried to make a little more tragic. And that's like the first A. The second A section, I go down an octave, and it gets really dissonant, I guess. But I think it's pretty.
God, I need to look this up now.
Really cool.
That sounds amazing.
One thing I do, it's funny. People a lot of times will, they're excited after a gig, and they'll go, "Wow, you're so weird," and I'm like, "Wow, I was like thought it was pretty," and I think it is, and I think, like, to maybe overemphasize my point. More than that, I'll hear, "Wow, nice tone." And it's like, like, "Oh, thanks." And actually,
what
like,
did you think of the song?
Scenes, a lot of my musician friends might kid around, and Tim Lunsell, a bass player I used to work with, used to come over after a gig. He'd walk over, and we'd be breaking down. He'd go, "Wow, your amp sounded great." And I hear that.
Right.
But I don't think my music's weird at all. Like, I just think it's personal, and it's thought about. I mean, I don't think, like, Joe Bonamassa ever hears, like, "Wow, that was weird."
Right, totally. Yeah, I love that. One of the best.
With all due respect, but
Sure,
you see my point.
Yeah, one of the best compliments I ever got after playing a live show is I went outside the venue. I was hanging out with everyone who was outside smoking and stuff. And this guy walks up to me and all excited. He's like, "You play guitar like an asshole." I was like, that got me. Like, you understand me. You understand what I'm going for.
So what do you play guitar like Johnny Ramone or?
That was a show with my surf band, and it's kind of like a very kind of like chaotic, dissonant take on a surf sort of sound.
I feel like that's not even your most assholey music.
No, it's not.
We made your guitar playing in our band was way more assholey. In the early days of our band, Ryan would like put 5 guitar solos in every song.
Steve and I had a punk band together. It was before my surf band, but I love those sorts of those comments that stick with you because they're not the normal kind of lip service that you get from people who saw your show. It's like, oh man, that was weird. Like, that's like a good response to.
I think it's a lack of it takes a little bit more bravery for a dude to go like, wow, that was really pretty, or that was the third song was beautiful, or When You Wish Upon a Star struck me. I had a multitude of interpretations. Like, people just go, awesome, good tone, and I mean,
right. You want what
it's
you
safe.
want? Do you want someone to be like, oh man, like it really was interesting to me the way that this took, a well-known song and flipped it on its head, and now it's a dark song instead of an optimistic
song. I don't
song.
expect like a thesis that Leonard Feather would cower at its how profound it was. But like one time we played, this is my trio, and a guy came up and he wanted to buy some music. And he said, you play free rock. And I just thought, wow, what a great description.
Yeah.
And now, that really, and I never judge people. Like, I mean, civilians who can't articulate themselves about music. I am always really kind to them because I don't want to use my one superpower against them to put them down, Totally. I mean, because we all know a lot about this one thing.
Right, totally.
I mean, we might have other interests, and I never put anybody down,
No.
But sometimes, the good tone thing, it doesn't really say much.
It doesn't.
Like, what does that mean exactly?
It's like, oh, were you expecting my tone to be bad?
Well,
they're not, you're playing
it's an
songs.
interesting thing, like, because I actually don't know what it means. Like, I kind of know what it means, but I would never say Django Reinhardt had good tone.
Right.
Like,
that's not the most noticeable thing about him, Talk about the things that are more noticeable about Django.
I just think it's
missing fingers.
Like, it doesn't, I'm not sure what that means.
Totally. No, like that could be a whole debate. Like, I think we actually debated that a while back.
I would say, God, what was that guy's name? Shit.
His name was Shit?
Is it okay to swear on the show?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Do you encourage it?
Yes.
Swear.
I can't think of the guy's name, but he was like a kind of a corporate rocker, and he had like I respect Neil Schon, but like Neil Schon gets good tone,
right?
But even him, I wouldn't necessarily pigeonhole what he does, because I think he plays incredible parts and very memorable solos. I think he's great. I think his journey is, I mean, I don't put him on in the morning when I make coffee, but that said, they're kind of stupendous, and they're back when, they got $1 million to record a record or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm kind of rambling. Sorry.
When I think about bands that I would comment on their tone, like, it's never like, oh man, that's a really good tone. my comment is always, or my thought process is like, that's a really different tone. That's a really interesting tone. And that, to me, that's when it's notable. Like circling back to Cake, like Cake is a band where early on when I first started playing guitar, it's like, I need to figure out how to get that sound. And it's that super nasal, lo-fi kind of guitar sound that Cake uses a lot of times. I spent forever trying to figure out how to get that sound. And
I mean, I was there, and John McCrae played an acoustic guitar with some like crappy kind of Bill Lawrence pickup in this tiny non-Fender amp.
Yeah, I didn't realize what was actually going on with with his guitar signal until I saw them live finally, and I was like, oh. That's why I haven't been able to get that sound, because I've been trying to do it with an electric guitar into like a normal amp, and he's running like a classical guitar into some sort of little solid state 15 watt thing or something. Yeah. And I
thought it was steel string, but maybe I'm mistaken.
You know, it was on a stage far away, and it was like 15 years ago, so my memory's foggy. But like, to me, that's a tone worth talking about, or like mentioning to someone like, hey, that's a different sound. Like
I would use the word sound.
Yeah. Sound is, we have a friend's podcast. They get into it saying that tone isn't real and we should all call it sound, which is.
Well, tone, I mean, at least I don't want to beat a dead horse if you guys have already discussed this, but tone to me would represent like a treble setting.
Right.
Like where else do we use the word tone? Like that stereo has a nice tone. You know, you don't, it's a weird word. Like it's kind of inappropriate.
Yeah. Guitarists have appropriated it to mean a whole umbrella of things, and it really doesn't make any sense as an actual word that means any one thing. Like, what are you talking about when you talk about tone? It doesn't mean anything. Like,
I might put awesome and cool like in subcategories of that too. That I mean, I'm not. Sometimes I misreading Guitar Player magazine. I just kind of. Because I write a monthly column, Vinyl Treasures, as I said before. I just get a classic LP of my choice and write about it. And well, I'll do a little plug, but it's just if anyone's interested, on my website jimcampilongo.com, every Vinyl Treasures is you go to gear and then it says Vinyl Treasures. But I remember that word was used generously in Guitar Player, like cool tones from this Strat pickup, awesome this, cool that, and I'd be like, you know, I need more than that.
Right.
Those are the words you use when you know, that's you're covering the product because they bought an ad.
Well,
a little bit cynical, Steve.
No, I mean, I think there's some truth to that, but I think even if they did buy an ad, you could call that pickup dynamic.
Right.
You could call it fierce. You could call it dark, even. You know, and that's just off the top of my head. But anyway,
I was watching a demo video today for some wah that came on the market. And I swear, like in the first minute, the guy doing the demo said, and it's built like a tank. And I just like, that's just what you say when you have nothing else to say. Like every pedal's built the same, guys. Like I haven't run into a single pedal yet that's not built like a tank. So what are you actually saying? You're just filling dead air. And that's one of those things. It's like, we could just say that about every single product, right? Great tone, built like a tank. Okay.
You make a point. I mean, most every pedal I have, I could kill someone with it.
Get all Cain and Abel on someone. Jeez. With a DS1.
So how long have you guys have kind of this chemistry? I don't know. I want to say like Abbott and Costello or Jerry and Dean or who else? Like, but not that.
Which one's Jerry?
But who's another duo? I mean, it kind of went out of style. Rowan and Martin.
I guess I'm probably the Jerry and you're the Dean.
No, I
don't even know if I
physically.
understand that
But
reference.
you guys have, like, I notice you don't interrupt each other, and one guy stops and the other guy starts. How long have you guys known each other?
We usually interrupt each other all the time. I like that you turned this around and you're interviewing us now. We've known each other for probably 20 years now, something like that. Get close.
In the neighborhood, like 17 years. I
Yeah.
feel like I was 20 when we met, but I might have been 19.
So we were in a band together for about 5 years, and then
we were in another band together for like 2 years.
no, that was like 6 months, dude. You're remembering that wrong. and then we ran an all ages venue together with another friend. That was a lot of fun. We did that for a couple of years.
Nice. What was it called? Excuse me. What was it called?
It was called the Park Gallery, and it was very like punk rock oriented, very small time venue, and like these little touring acts would come through and stuff like that. It was a lot of fun. We never got.
So you guys are real movers and shakers.
Yeah, and then we started this.
Well, one of you is.
And then we started this podcast 8 years ago, and it spun into a YouTube channel, and here we are. So we have lots of practice interrupting and not interrupting each other.
I usually just figure that if Ryan is starting, I can sense when he's about to interrupt me, but I usually that makes me realize I've probably been talking for too long. So I need to stop.
Yeah, sometimes like I kind of have to poke Steve with a stick to get him to stop talking, because he'll just go by himself for about 40 minutes all alone.
Well, instead of naming duos from the vaudeville era, I guess I should have just said you have a chemistry, and it looks like it's been well traveled.
Yeah. We have a long history.
Okay, back to me.
Yeah. Let's talk about your gear. Like everyone should go check out your website. We will have a link down below. You have a full like rundown of your guitars and your amps and your gear and stuff like that. Your main Telecaster. Let's talk about that. That thing is worn in. It's kind of like a ship of Theseus sort of thing too. Like what I was reading about it. Like you've replaced so many parts, but you've kept it the same vibe as much as you can.
I mean, I like basic. I mean, I think they generally get everything right the first time. I mean, even apps, like you get it. I got voice. Do you guys have an iPhone? I got voice memo, and the first voice memo worked wonderfully, and it had this cool old microphone icon. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And then they improved it, and it like doesn't function as well, et cetera, et cetera. And I kind of feel that way about guitars. Like I don't like fancy potentiometers that, I mean, I could do everything manually, and there's a nice linear fade on my tone control and volume. Why it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Sure.
So yeah, I've kept it basic. It's getting pretty worn. My headphone jack is here. But yeah, it's a 59 Telecaster. It's a top loader. Fender made, which I guess isn't on Wikipedia. There's a Campilongo Fender custom shop model that was modeled after that guitar. I mean, not exactly, because I didn't want him to do it exactly. Not like the Van Halen guitar.
Sure.
It has like, his, cigarette burn.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. But, so yeah, I really like that guitar, but I'll pretty much kind of play the guitar that's next to me.
Totally. I also noticed, like, you've got a lot of gear tastes in common with me. You've got Duo-Sonics and you've got Princetons, and those are two things that I have a long sort of appreciation for.
Yeah, I got into the Princeton thing around 2000, and I mean, I just thought that they're great amps. They're light. They have vibrato and reverb, and at the time, they weren't that desired. And I, of course, I was like, well, is there enough headroom? And yeah, there's enough headroom. And if you stick a mic in front of it, it's like, no problem, right? I mean, I played, and I don't want to seem name droppy, but I played next to Pete Townsend at Shepherd's Bush, and he had like a stack, and I had a Princeton, and it was fine.
Right.
I mean, and that's
because
Pete Townsend.
it was
So-
mic'd up and you were running through the house. and
So
stuff.
I basically bought about 15 of them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I like that.
You got some
And
work
I-
to do, man.
Yeah.
I sold quite a few just to friends or guitar students, but I never paid more than $800. Like when they got to $800, and I had like a bunch of them, I think I have 6 now or something. And 2 have Celestion G10 speakers in them, and I really like that coupling. Those Celestion G10s soften them up a little bit, and it's a nice sound. And the other thing I like about those speakers is they sound good immediately. Like
Right.
there's no breaking in. But I like all Fender amps. I'll use a deluxe sometimes. I like the deluxe reissue if I have to. I bought one, but it's a good backline amp. What else do I have? I have a Vibrolux.
Oh, nice. Vibroluxes are amazing.
They're great,
Yeah.
but living in New York and all that, and generally the Princeton has enough power, so I'm a big fan.
Yeah.
And the Duo-Sonics, they kind of just went up, but they were like the last affordable vintage guitar. And they're absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah. They're so much fun.
Now,
Oh, it was right
There it
above the
is.
computer.
I have some up here.
Is this a vintage one?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this is a 56.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's beautiful.
But the gold anodized pickguard, and I love the way I'm kind of backwards here. Even this wear,
Yeah.
the desert sand color, and these necks. This thing is like marble.
Yeah.
I mean, the wood, and it's like so hand carved with a soft bevel. It's the greatest neck. I mean, it's short scale, but
Yeah.
I think like every neck for every guitar for the rest of time should be based on like this.
Yeah.
And I've asked a few luthiers, like, what is it? And they can't really describe it. It's like not a C neck, not a whatever, D neck or whatever they are. But yeah, they're lovely.
Yeah.
And to think this was like a bottom of the line Fender
Right.
guitar.
Yeah. My Duo-Sonic is one of the 90s reissues. I got it from a pawn shop for $75, I think. And it became my main guitar for years. It's not sticking up there.
Well, and this is a Music Master.
Oh, you grabbed a different one.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I love these. And, I got them right before, excuse me for interrupting, but I got it right before the prices went double. They literally doubled. And so I actually, my buddy Luca Benedetti brought his over, and I just fell in love with it. And I mean, I'm not much of I really don't want a bunch of guitars, and I'm not a guitar collector. If it was up to me, I'd have fewer guitars. And
me too.
I actually, these 2 guitars, I think, were my only purchase, like in the last decade.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I got a couple free things, like I got a free sample, but I don't know. I mean, why?
Yeah, totally.
I mean, my collections are smaller. Like I collect cufflinks, or I collect, I mean, but when people start having 40 or 50 guitars, I find that.
Yeah. I
don't know.
I'm over 30 right now, which grosses me out. Like, I don't want to have that many guitars. You can see how many are behind me, but
it's fine.
It came with the gig. Like before I started doing YouTube videos and doing demos and stuff like that, I had less than 10 easily.
I had more guitars than you for a really long time.
Oh, for sure. Like I was never like a big guitar collector, and now it's just like they're coming in so quick I can't get rid of them fast enough because it's my job. But yeah, I'm the same way where it's like if I was just a player, I'd probably have like 3 or 4 electric guitars right now, and then like 2 acoustics or something. It would be really hard for me to pick which ones at this point.
It would be hard.
Yeah,
and
it's hard to go
some
back.
Pieces. I have some really nice guitars that I got. I have a '62 Strat.
Oh, nice.
That was signed by Roy Buchanan, if you know who he is. And I met him. He wrote "Live Happy" on the back. It's beautiful. And I traded it for a Roland guitar synthesizer.
How do you feel about that trade now?
I mean, I felt pretty good about it then.
Wait, did you you traded to receive the Strat and you traded away the roll? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. You scared me there. I thought you traded
I've
away.
done some dumb things, but that wasn't one of them.
Well, I wonder how that guy feels now that he's the one who traded away that Strat for a Roland synthesizer.
I don't know, but the last time I talked to him, and I didn't want to rub it in or anything, and I don't think I've seen him for 20 years, but the last time I saw him, I was like, oh yeah, we made that trade, and I was kind of
right. I bet he thinks about it at night
inside, because we did it in like maybe 82, 83.
Yeah. And a 60s Strat back then would have been worth a completely different amount of money than it's worth now.
Oh, so. It was totally different.
Yeah,
he's probably getting ready to start his Duran Duran cover band anyway.
Well, it's
something like that.
I mean, going back to that time frame, it probably was a squarely fair trade.
Yeah.
For a Roland guitar synth kit and a 60s
it
Strat.
Was, but I knew one would go obsolete
right.
and one would not. And I live by that. And there was something I wanted to talk about the Princeton thing, but it's like a Princeton amp.
Right.
That's why I bought. This isn't what I wanted to say, but at the time, I knew Princeton's would become popular because they were light. And I felt at the time, and I might be wrong, you guys know this better than me, is most guitarists were probably my age. The real, I'm not really a baby boomer and I'm not Gen X, I'm kind of in between.
Sure.
But I thought everyone else is getting a bad back too, and they don't want to carry a fucking Fender Twin, sorry for the F word, to a gig.
You can say Fender on this show.
Yeah. we do work for those guys all the time.
Anyway, so yeah, what else you want to know?
Just going off of that, I think that's 100%, and it's even funny, like the number of younger folks who don't want to deal with it, who they're hauling they want an AC30 or whatever, or some big heavy amp, but they're like, nah. And so everyone's using, line 6 HX stomps, a little, 2-pound, whatever.
Everyone that can
processor
is going as light as they can these days, and then they're putting all that weight back into their pedal board.
That's true. That's true.
I've been carrying around my pedal board. I'm like,
that.
Why do I put so many pedals on this thing? It's so heavy. But
I think there's a certain connection with the audience with a non-processed sound.
Mm-hmm. I think there's good uses and bad uses for all
sure.
that
There's Nels
stuff.
Klein. I mean, Nels Klein. I've played with Nels, as my Wikipedia said, and he'll bring like this many pedals, and he's like a consummate artist. But I'll tell you this: he's not bending over the first 3 songs.
Right.
He's immediately playing music.
Totally.
And, and I see I see bands and the guy's messing around with his pedal the first 3 songs, like bending over. And, you have to get like the sweet spot for all of them. I used to mark it with a tape, and then, so there was some, but yeah, I mean, that's why I just played basically into an amp.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, I don't want to alienate what you guys do or all of your listeners, but I think that's the way to go.
I think it really depends. Like there's definitely a case to be made that there's something really fun and pure about going straight in or having a really minimal signal chain. But then there's also there's a ton of fun you can have with pedals. There just is. But not every band needs that. And some bands do need that. Some recording projects need a bunch of messing around with stacked overdrives and delays and reverbs and modulations and step sequencers and all that. But I think
would go ahead. I'm sorry.
In your case, like having listened to your music, I would have been very surprised if you ran some sort of lavish pedal board. Like you sound like a straight into amp type of player, which works wonderfully for you.
I get a lot of different sounds. It's not like I just do Wes Montgomery or something.
No.
And I agree. I would be, incorrect if I said there wouldn't be a place for effects and different guitar sounds. And in a lot of ways, that's the miracle of the guitar. There's Segovia and there's Van Halen.
Yeah.
I mean, and Hendrix. But
at one point, though, we already know this. At one point, you were messing around with a Roland guitar synth.
For sure.
So it's not like you're a stranger.
I used to play through 2 Fender Twins in stereo with a full effect board. I've done it.
Yeah.
And so I have an informed opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I think that, one of the things you mentioned was fun.
Yeah.
And when I play a show, that is my priority. Like before I play, that's the thing I think is now it's time to have fun. It doesn't matter how many people are here. It doesn't matter if the back line's bad. It's my job to have fun. That said, I'm not in it for fun. Like I'm in it to connect.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I think all those toys makes a more narcissistic experience.
That's interesting.
No, I think that makes sense. Like, it's kind of like there's this whole, usually it revolves around how much money you spend on a piece of gear. And, people say, well, I've got this $500 guitar that plays just as good as that $2,000 guitar or whatever. And, at the end of the day, it doesn't, whether you do it with a $50 guitar or $500 guitar or a $2,500 guitar or whatever,
well,
it's, if whatever you're playing is helping you connect with whoever you're playing to or connect to yourself, if you're just playing with yourself, then that was the investment. Like you made that investment and it works for you.
Well, one interesting thing is the $500 guitar versus the $10,000 guitar. Can we say that? Okay. I think there is a difference. And there's
definitely a difference.
That difference to me is how the guitar reacts dynamically. And what I have found is a lot of guys who can't afford, let's call it $25,000 guitar, because that's kind of what they seem to be going for. They can't do that.
Right.
They don't play dynamically.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't play dynamically, and a lot of guitarists don't, most guitarists don't, I think, a $500 guitar and a $2,000 or $20,000 guitar is going to be in the same ring. It's going to stay in the ring, even though it's like Mike Tyson against, Wally Cox. Even though I know that's an old reference,
because the playing style doesn't need, whatever special sauce you would have found with the higher.
It's all about dynamics,
right?
Like your touch, what notes do you emphasize? What don't you? How do you make it swing? If you're going to make something swing, you got to go those are dynamics. And that's the first thing I investigate when I have a pedal. And I have a ton of pedals.
Mm-hmm.
Is it dynamic?
Mm.
And I was responding to Steve, and now I can't remember what.
Steve went down a rabbit trail with $500 guitars.
Yeah,
when we were talking about pedals, and now
I was
we're
just
in the weeds a little bit.
I was just thinking about if you have a pedal board, like some people it absolutely is a distraction, and for other people, it's it's part of the fun of it. It's
or
part
it's
of the
a necessity for their creative process.
Yeah.
Or it can't, like you said, circling back, it can definitely be a distraction. And I've definitely been and known the guitarist that is fiddling around with a pedal board 3 songs into the set.
Yeah, or doesn't know a diminished chord.
Oh, sure.
Or whatever. And I'm not saying like the guy has to be big jazz, but like, oh,
Right.
he doesn't know Stella by Starlight. But it's kind of like chasing something that maybe they should chase something else for at least for a while. And again, there's brilliant people like Nels Cline. I mean, I've played with Nels a lot and have you seen him in Wilco?
Yeah.
Okay, when I saw Wilco, Nels did a solo that was so fantastic. I swear to God, I wanted to like get my chair and throw it, which I hadn't experienced since I was 15. I don't know how you guys were as kids, but where you were so taken by the music, it just made you want to be violent.
Right.
It was like rock God. I mean, and he brought me to a point like he stayed there. And yeah, he has a bunch of effects, so I'm not like putting everybody down.
Sure.
I don't know. I feel like I'm being, contrary, and I don't want to.
We're gonna definitely take the clip of you slagging on effects, and we're gonna post it on Instagram, and we're gonna tag Nels.
Yeah, big quote.
I'll be like the guitarist version of Louis C.K.
We're not going to publish it, but we will blackmail you with it.
Kind of, I guess, coming full circle, we talked about how you have this style that's all your own. But, the list of artists that you've worked with is kind of all over the map. The one, you're a Cake fan. I'm more of in the Bright Eyes camp, I guess. And to me, like, I guess I can see connections between those two acts, but at the same time, I'm kind of like, that's an odd combo. And then, I can see the connection, a connection between Bright Eyes and Nels Cline, but not a connection between Nels Cline and Cake.
Well, truth be told, the Bright Eyes thing is more like, it's better than, Bright Eyes drove by in a bus one day, and it's on my Wikipedia. But I think I played once, maybe twice, and it was all on Norah Jones's coattails. It was like some big thing he did, and just to be honest, I don't want to get kicked off the podcast now because I have no.
It sounds like
we're done. We're done.
It sounds like we need to edit your Wikipedia for more Norah Jones content.
Well, it's valid. I did play with Bright Eyes. What's his real name?
Connor Oberst.
Connor, yeah. And he seemed nice. He was very handsome. I'll grant him that.
Sure.
I mean, I thought he was good. I didn't really experience him a lot. I played like 2 or 3 songs a couple nights at Town Hall, I think it was, in New York City. So, but yeah, there is a lot of diversity, but it doesn't really feel like it. One person I played with, I don't know if it's on there, was Burning Man, and they were like a reggae group. And
I guess he's decently handsome. I looked at Connor. he's a good looking dude. Sorry,
I thought he was.
Circle back.
I mean, it wasn't, I didn't lose any sleep over him. But,
sorry to interrupt. You were talking about a reggae thing.
I mean, I think I think he's very handsome. I think he's more handsome than Tom Brady or somebody like that. And
here's a picture with his shirt off. I'm into a different part of the internet. What is going on?
Well, I don't know what you're looking at, but
he's looking up the Connor Oberst OnlyFans.
But most people in his position are usually at least charismatic, if not attractive.
Yes.
And I thought he was attractive. And when I played on stage with him, there was that vibe in the audience. And as a occasional sideman, even though I think I'm more of a solo artist, it's really interesting to experience that. When I kind of enjoy not being the one focused on, because you could just look at the audience and go, oh, because the audience becomes one personality.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. And that personality was like, the chicks were digging on.
Right.
Yeah.
Like a big old collective laser beam of sexual energy pointed at the stage. Like that must be wild to be there and kind of witness that energy. Like
poetically put.
Sexual laser beam is going to be the name of my next band.
It's a good one.
It's a good one.
I'm Helen Keller, and you're a sexual laser beam.
So I completely interrupted and sidetracked off of some story you were trying to tell about a reggae show or something like that. So
it wasn't that good.
Okay, good. I saved us.
I might have a good story or two, but it wasn't as good as even the Patrick Stewart one, so we could skip it.
Remember the Patrick Stewart story?
Yeah,
that was so good.
We should hear that.
Oh, was it good?
It was really good.
But yeah, and so I did 2 records with Norah Jones in a group called the Little Willies, right? And our original, and I'm just kind of making up a new subject, but my point is, I really don't feel like I play that differently with all those people. They all seemed, that's too general. Like, well, it was good music. There's only 2 kinds of music. But I don't know. It just seemed, I can't think of, I'm trying to think of something I think, no, I'm totally wrong for that. Like, I know I'd find something. With most artists. And if I don't hear anything, I don't play, which I think is an asset.
Totally.
In some ways. But anyway, so with Norah, I would do a solo so crazy and think, boy, I'm really in trouble now. And Norah would be like, hey, So,
nice.
And I just did my thing. It was like this pseudo country band.
Yeah.
So, I wasn't doing Don't Know Why.
Right.
Off her first record, if you know that. It wasn't that version of Norah. It was really compatible to what I do.
Yeah. I watched a few clips of that, of you playing with that band. It was fun. Yeah. It wasn't fully what I was expecting when I was thinking like, oh, Norah Jones, let's check this out. I was like, no, this is like a fun band. This isn't, like a singer-songwriter sort of like more vibe that I was expecting.
Absolutely not. It's, pretty fiery and I met Norah when I was in San Francisco, if we've got a minute.
Oh, sure.
Okay. Just want to be sensitive to you guys and your show. But I met Norah through Lee Alexander, who is the bassist in the Norah Jones band. But I knew him in San Francisco, and we'd do some gigs, and he moved to New York before I did. And he sent me, I go, hey, how's it going? And he sent me, I met this girl named Norah. And I was like, great. Lee moved to New York and he met this girl. She has a cool name.
Yeah, she sounds nice.
Norah Jones. I bet she's cool. And then they came out to the Bay Area where I still was. This is about 20 years ago. And I met her and I was just like, God, she's great. Like she kind of had a Ray Charles thing and just I know I said I hate the word cool, but she's a cool chick, like Rosario Dawson.
Yeah,
right.
You know what I mean?
That vibe.
Like it's a good way to describe Rosario Dawson.
Right, totally.
She's a cool chick. I don't know. Maybe it isn't, but
no, I get that.
So
I'll tell her that you said that.
Yeah. She's over.
I know her.
One sec, Rosie.
I'll call her up. Hey. You want?
Yeah, in our
Jim's talking about you.
But anyway, so yeah, but I thought Norah was one of the most talented people I had ever met up to that point in my life.
Mm.
And they were in New York, and I moved to New York, and I was kind of bouncing around. And they said, hey, we got a room, and we're going to go out on tour to promote this record. And I was like, okay. So I actually moved here. And this was their pad. And they went out on tour, and like 6 months later, I was in this apartment watching her get 5 Grammys on television.
Right.
But my point is, they got it right.
Yeah.
Because if she never got a Grammy and never, did anything, I mean, one of the reasons I moved to New York was to play with Norah just as a civilian, not a star. And so when we got the band together, it was like still kind of that dynamic. Super fun. She's super versatile, and she's a really good piano player. I mean, yeah. I really respect her. And I actually learned a lot from her when we would record. Maybe you guys relate, and I've been talking a while, but I kind of like to hone in on a part.
Mm-hmm.
When I go in the studio, I think, oh boy, I'll be like Reggie Young, or come up with like a George Harrison thing. And I didn't quite get it. Let's do it again. And by the 5th time, I'm like, yeah, I got a part.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of wanted to do that with the Willies when we went to record. And she'd like do a tune, and we'd record it. And she'd go, can we do it in A flat? And it'd be like, yeah, and it wasn't G,
Right.
Like, okay, A flat. And she'd do it differently in A flat.
Oh my gosh. So she like reinvent the song. Each
and
key
then
change.
Maybe another key change, or just go another feel with a different intro. And then we're done. And I was like really uncomfortable. I was like, man, I don't know. Was I good? Did I can't remember what I played. I felt like I was learning the song each time we tracked it. And that's those records.
Mm.
And I've since then recorded that way, maybe not as, I won't move it to A flat if it's in G, but it's a kind of a jazz mentality that keeps the music fresh and real.
Totally.
And, she's a real artist.
Yeah.
Even though she's, a rock star and does kind of some middle of the road kind of stuff,
sure.
I guess, for lack of a better
word.
But
that's what you've got to do to be, that level of success. Like you have to,
I guess, yeah.
You have to make music that regular everyday people want to listen to, and the music that musicians want to listen to is a different, it's a different dog and pony show in comparison.
Well, maybe. I mean, I think part of her success was it was like pre-Napster,
sure.
pre-Spotify, and people were buying CDs and LPs. But I don't know, and I might be wrong here, Ryan, but I think regular people, like not us, not musicians,
right.
If they could hear the music we hear, they'd embrace that music.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think so.
I go to Bed Bath & Beyond once in a while, and I hear this horse shit, like some guy going, yeah, that one night we spent together, now I think of you all the time. And it's like, God, this is horrible. And like some invisible guitar solo.
Yeah.
And I think people just hear it a few times. But if they really heard something from the heart, I think just as being humans, whether we're musicians and have this insight into whatever, I think it's irrelevant. And I think like through history, better music got to civilians. I mean, we cherry pick now, but if you look at the music and this, Jimi Hendrix was on the radio.
Right.
I mean, I could name 20 other things. And now it's just a little more.
Well, it's tough now because a lot of those old avenues that you would find music have commercially they're in trouble. Radio's in trouble. The record industry's in trouble and stuff like that. So people are finding music on their own, and they're finding good music on their own. But because it's individuals finding music that appeals to them individually, there's not a cohesive, singular cultural impact of any one artist anymore, where it's like, oh, everyone hears this, it's being played on the radio. Like, people listen to the radio if they commute, if they don't feel like hooking up their phone, like they're not sitting there being, dedicated to one cultural stream of music anymore. It's so fragmented that it makes it kind of hard to track down what is and isn't the good music in our culture anymore. And the stuff that is just like, oh, this will work, let's pay to push it out there, as Muzak or something like that in the grocery store. Like, it falls short for lack of a better term.
But it obviously, I have to bring up, but here I am on your show, and hopefully if, someone will discover Jim, however you pronounce my last name.
Well, I want to circle back to some.
That's what's great. That's what is replacing it. But there is something to be said about like being loyal to a radio station and how they curate it and how they make hits.
Well, I think that, for us, that's one of the kind of a hard thing is we have historically in our lifetimes in San Diego, there have been basically two, I guess three, but really like two like alt rock stations. There would be like two stations that you would hear Cake on, basically, right? To use a reference, and at different times, those stations were sometimes independent and sometimes less independent. And
countdown till I have to interrupt Steve.
Oh my God!
No, he's really onto something.
He's going there,
and that is like a thing where actually one of them, the one that originally was independent, is now like so not. They're not just not independent radio; they are farmed radio.
Right.
They are a San Diego station. Their morning show is two dudes from Las Vegas. Their afternoon, it's this broadcast all over the place. Whereas the station that's long been touted itself as San Diego's original rock station or whatever, is now like almost 40 years and been independent for most of that time. And they're still San Diego people. And so I don't even like the music they play, but I do get that where I'm like, well, was not my favorite rock station in San Diego, but they are the local station. They are they're the home team, and the station that I wanted to be the home team is now playing. They're playing a lot of shit. They're playing a lot of music that I don't like.
Yeah, I find too that they'll play like the same 10 songs.
Yeah.
Like, do we really need to hear Hotel California again for the rest of our lives?
Yeah.
Like, I could just imagine it. For there was a point where I was hearing Jesse's Girl. Like, every time I went in the supermarket, I'm like, why am I hearing, and that's kind of an oddball, but there's kind of like this 12-song playlist or Bad Moon Horizon by Creedence, Painted Black by the Rolling Stones seems to be in every film. Instead of any of our music or your friend's music or my friend's music. Like, why not? But instead it's Painted Black and they're giving the Stones $80,000 or whatever. But yeah, and that said though, podcasts, us, this independence thing, and you have a listenership. It's great.
Yeah,
it's great.
No, it's a whole new world, and there's all new ways for musicians to make a living and get their music out there, or not make a living if they don't want to, but still produce the music they want to make. It's pretty amazing, and it's also a little bit scary because it's not, there's not a hard, like it used to be like, oh, I'm gonna get signed, then a label's going to help me rise to this level if I have the talent, and then I'll be a star. Like, it used to seem like a clear path that you could plan on, and like there's no path now. Like, you kind of have to figure it out on your own. Everyone has to figure out their own way, and to find the niche audience that is going to allow them to make a living or do whatever they want to do, producing music, art, whatever. I want to circle back for a closing thought. You were talking about how, like a general audience, like a general music listener who's not a musician, can enjoy good music. And you're an instrumentalist, like your music is instrumental. And I have a surf band, or had a surf band a couple of years ago. And I think you and I probably have a similar experience where most people don't really think about instrumental music. They don't seek it out. But then when they encounter it live, like they didn't anticipate that it was going to be something that they would love so much. And they're like, what was that? There's a connection that happens with instrumental music when it's good, when it's meant to be like, oh, here's an instrumental that is a song. It's not just a shred. Mm-hmm. It's a song with melody and harmony and, you know, bridges and choruses and verses and stuff like that. But it's still just a song that people can grab onto. I think there's a connection that people don't expect to have when they're just a general music listener and they're encountering that in a live space where they maybe weren't expecting it. So that's my little rant.
I mean, I think there are some people who are really accustomed, if not addicted, to a lyric.
Right.
They feel like a person speaking to them, and they connect that way. I know for myself, let's say Duke Ellington. Mm-hmm. You know, that's instrumental music.
Right.
His version of Prelude to a Kiss, I would feel it would be undermined by lyrics.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
I feel like it captures my imagination more so because there's not lyrics. That said, when one is playing instrumental music, I think there are ways to connect with the audience. One thing is to have the song title, I'm Helen Keller and You're a Wallflower.
That does it. Good titles do it.
I mean, it will draw people in. And a lot of people think like, okay, this song's called Marilyn. And, oh, he must be singing about a woman that he longs for. You know, even like your title is a tell and a bit of a subtitle, if you will, right?
Sure.
But I think it's totally possible. And I think it's our job. Like, you know, and I'm speaking to you directly, like to connect and to make it accessible as we can and never be cynical and know that, like, we could connect. We could connect with these people. We could connect with the guy who brought his girlfriend and he wanted to see me and kind of she doesn't like guitar music or whatever. Mm-hmm. Like, it's my job to connect with her too. Mm-hmm. And I think it's really possible. And frankly, like, I think I can, you know, I've been more successful than not. And really, you know, I mean, you know, the road continues. I mean, I feel really grateful, and I want to say something in closing about the show too.
Sure.
But when I remember when I was really young, like in my teens, and I was like some young, like Italian American dude growing up in South San Francisco, and we'd go to a wedding, and our weddings and celebrations always had like the same band. It was like my cousins, Johnny Vallelonga, Lou Firpo played accordion. Johnny Vallelonga was the singer. And, you know, it was like our tribe's band. But I remember going there and like we were listening to like Live Cream, smoking out of a bong, then going to see these guys and just like laughing under the table, like hysterically.
Right.
Like like, wow, this is so fun, just corny and whatever. I mean, I probably would enjoy it now. And I kind of thought that would happen to me. Like when I was 20 or 25 or 30, I mean, I'm 63 years old, and I'm really happy that I'm still, as we were saying, trying to connect with people, and they just aren't like laughing hysterically or going, oh, he's a rock dad, or, it's like, I really feel like, wow, thank you. Just that I get the privilege to still try and be an artist and not be like an accordion player with a monkey, on the street corner. So let's keep it up. And the other thing I wanted to say is the reason I called you guys to be on your show is to bring up things like the value of pedals. What does tone mean? Things like that, like more intellectual discussions about, cool, awesome.
Sure.
And that's why I wanted to be on this show. And I hope your listeners aren't alienated by any of it.
No, we intentionally try to alienate our listeners as often as possible. We like to do that sort of stuff and talk topics and dissect things and try to figure out, the core elements of this silly hobby / career that many of us have, is dicking around with guitars and having fun with it, and just, music as a concept. So I think this has been great. And I'm really happy that you hit us up. I think we've had a lot of fun conversations here, and there's a lot of really great moments that I think people are going to be talking about in the comments.
If listeners, viewers, whatever, want to check out more of your stuff, jimcampilongo.com. You also do some stuff on YouTube, right? And where all are you? Because you have a few different places.
Yeah, I mean, jimcampilongo.com is probably headquarters. All my releases are on Bandcamp. That would be Jim Campilongo, Campilongo, Jim Campilongo. I think it's one, and all my releases are there, and you could stream them. I have a Patreon where I put up stuff and lessons and what have you. I write for Guitar Player. I have a YouTube channel. I kind of, it's not a priority. I did a couple of interviews with people I really liked, and I want to interview a guy named Ernest Ranglin, but it's not like what you guys do. And actually, I'm kind of hanging on by my fingernails with technology.
Sure.
I wouldn't know how to do a podcast or whatever.
It's not hard.
But you guys just put it up on YouTube. Yeah. So yeah, that's what I did. I interviewed Elvin Bishop. It was really, really fun. So I guess that's about the gist of it. I play in New York City and I venture out. I'll be in the Bay Area December 2nd playing Freight and Salvage, possibly Minneapolis, February 25th at the Ice House. But all that's on jimcampilongo.com.
Yeah, everyone go check it out. If you're in the area and Jim is playing in your town, you should go check him out. Real quick, I want to thank our sponsors. We didn't do that at any part of the show. Huge thanks to Chase Bliss Audio for once again sponsoring this, and Big Ear Pedals. And Steve, why don't you take us out with one of the songs?
Sure. I'm gonna play the song Orange off of the album Orange.
That's too mellow.
Too mellow. What should I play, Jim?
Play Backburner.
Backburner. That's the. Okay, here we go.
great tone. Awesome. No, that was super fun.
It was very cool. No, actually, you know, as I was listening to it, you know, the word that actually came into my mind was I would describe that song as filthy.
Oh yeah, I love all
All
the
right.
like the dissonant harmonics going on and stuff. That was cool.
I'm glad you guys liked it because as like in the middle, I was like, oh, I wish you went to the bridge sooner, and we should have done. Why didn't I agree to I'm Helen Keller? But it's a little longer, you know.
People can go look up that one on their own.
Guys, I hope you had as much fun as I did.
Oh, totally. Yeah. And thanks for staying up late with us. I know it's a lot later in New York than it is in San Diego. So
I can't believe it's 20 to 12. We started at 10.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. Well, you know, it helps when you don't have to restart after 20 minutes.
That's right. God.
All right. Thanks for joining us, Jim.
You dunderheads.
This has been amazing. And I'm sure we'll be in contact more in the future because this has been great.
I hope so. I feel like we could be friends.
I'll consider it.
For sure.
I'll consider it.
No, I mean that sincerely.
Sure.
Anyway.
I like to do some travel for the video stuff that I do. Who knows? At some point I might show up in New York and knock on your door or something like that.
Steve, Ryan, thank you so much.
Of course. It's been great.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye, Jim.
See ya.